Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to try to cut through all the noise, all the hype around this thing everyone's talking about: governance, risk, and compliance.
Right.
GRC, of course. But we're going to look at it specifically as it applies to managed security services. You come here to get a handle on these big, sometimes kind of overwhelming security topics, right?
Yeah,
But without getting totally bogged down.
exactly.
And that's our whole mission here. So think of this deep dive as like your express lane to understanding a really, really critical part of the whole security puzzle.
Yeah, this is really designed to give you what you need to know to understand how organizations are, I guess, staying secure
Right.
and meeting all their obligations. Right. In this world that's getting so complex digitally.
It is. It is. So I guess let's get right to it. What is GRC in this context? I mean, at its core, it's a framework, right?
Yeah.
It's a way for a business to make sure its IT operations, everything, all the networks, the data, that it's actually supporting its business goals. It's about addressing these potential dangers, these risks,
Yeah.
and making sure the company's following all the rules and regulations, right? So when we narrow it down to managed security services, or MSS,
Right.
we're really talking about how all those outsourced security functions, are they working effectively? Are they actually aligned with the bigger goals of the organization?
Right.
And its legal responsibility.
And the thing is, to really get this, we've pulled from some key sources, some articles.
Yeah.
We have GRC and Managed Security Services, of course, PDF. We've got Governance, Risk, and Compliance, also a PDF. Understanding Governance, Risk, and Compliance, that's another one. And then some insights from a section in the JP Stream solution.
Exactly. And our goal here is to really distill like the core knowledge from these resources, explain why it should matter to you.
Yeah.
Even if you're, not a security expert.
Yeah.
Right? And to kind of show you how it all fits together.
Yeah.
All right. So let's dive in. Let's look at the foundation, the fundamental building blocks of GRC.
Right.
Governance, risk management, and compliance.
Exactly. And let's start with governance, all right?
Yeah.
Think of this as the compass of the organization.
Okay.
It's about putting in place the structure, the policies, the processes that make sure that IT is really moving the business towards those goals they're aiming for.
Right.
And a big takeaway here is that governance it's like the foundation that people overlook a lot.
Right.
Without clearly defining, who does what.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for which decisions. Even the coolest, the most advanced security tools, they can be mismanaged, right?
Yeah, of course.
Totally ineffective.
It's all about setting that high level direction, making sure everyone knows, who's driving the bus,
Right.
and where they're going.
Right.
So next up, risk management. What's the big idea here? What are we talking about?
Risk management, it's all about looking ahead.
Okay.
It's about anticipating those potential problems, the threats.
Yeah.
It means looking at your vulnerabilities systematically. Anything that could have a negative impact
Right.
on the assets, on how things are running,
Right.
on the reputation of the organization. And once you find those risks, right?
Yeah.
The big thing is to look at how likely they are to happen
Right.
and how bad the impact would be. From there, it's all about developing those strategies to lessen those risks.
Right.
And monitoring how well those strategies are working. And in the world of MSS, this means really managing those cybersecurity risks like data breaches, malware, right? Not just waiting for something to happen and then reacting.
It's not just hoping for the best.
No.
It's about taking action, right?
Yeah.
To prevent bad things, or at least to reduce the damage if they happen.
Okay.
And then the third piece, compliance.
Right.
This is where the organization has to deal with the outside world, the rules, the regulations.
Yeah. Compliance is making sure that the organization is playing by the rules. All the rules, the external legal stuff, the regulatory requirements,
Right.
industry standards, all that.
Okay.
Think about things like GDPR, that's for data privacy, right?
Right.
High PA for healthcare, PCI DSS for payment cards. ISO 27001. That's for information security.
No.
But it also includes following internal policies really strictly.
Okay.
The tough part, the really important part of compliance,
Yeah.
is being able to prove without a doubt that you are meeting all those requirements.
Right.
And that often means audits, detailed reports, documentation, all that.
So it's like we have governance, which is setting the direction right.
Yeah.
Risk management, which is kind of like, identifying the icebergs out there.
Yeah.
Compliance, making sure we're
Yeah.
following all the maritime laws.
Exactly.
But how do these three actually work together? I mean, they don't seem like separate things.
You're absolutely right. They're all connected. They reinforce each other.
Okay.
Governance, it sets the big picture, right? It
Yeah.
sets the tone for how the organization deals with both risk management and compliance.
Right.
Then risk management, that tells you where the compliance problems might be.
Okay.
And then the compliance requirements, they often dictate, what controls you need,
Right.
what processes your governance and risk management need to have. It's like a constant loop, right?
Right.
Each part informs the other parts.
So they all kind of feed into each other.
Exactly. It's a holistic thing.
Okay, so that makes sense. But why is GRC such a big deal now?
Right.
I mean, shouldn't this always have been important?
Right.
What's driving this focus on GRC?
Yeah. I mean, the basic ideas behind GRC, they aren't brand new, right?
Yeah.
But a few things have happened all at the same time that have made it really, really important.
Okay.
First, the cyber threats, they've gotten way worse.
Right.
The scale of the attacks, how sophisticated they are. We're seeing so many attacks, and they're a lot sneakier.
Right.
It's not just about finding a simple weakness anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Today's attacks, they target the way the business thinks, the logic of the business.
Wow.
So a strong GRC framework, it's like your strategic defense
Okay.
against data breaches, against losing a lot of money, against hurting your reputation.
Right.
I mean, think about ransomware, right?
Yeah.
Or these advanced persistent threats, these APTs.
Mm-hmm.
They show you just how urgent it is to have a good GRC framework.
So the stakes are higher now
Oh, yeah.
because of these more sophisticated threats.
Huge difference. And with more threats, you get more rules.
Right.
More regulations, people trying to keep things safe.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a cat and mouse game almost.
Exactly. The rules have gotten a lot stricter,
Mm-hmm.
and they're changing all the time. Governments, industry groups, they're making tougher rules to protect data, right? To make sure people are held accountable. New laws and standards, they're popping up everywhere.
Right.
GDPR, CCPA, IPA, these are just a few examples.
Then it's not just the external pressures, Ron.
Right.
I mean, technology itself has gotten so much more complex.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everyone's using cloud computing now.
Yeah.
All these mobile devices, the Internet of Things. It's a much more complicated security landscape.
Mm-hmm.
Managing security and compliance across all these different systems, it's a huge challenge.
So I guess if something does go wrong in this environment, the repercussions, they can be really bad, right?
Oh yeah. A good, clear GRC framework, it's critical for business continuity.
Right.
Minimizing those disruptions that happen because of security incidents
Right.
or, other unexpected events.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, if you don't meet those compliance obligations,
Yeah.
or, you have a big data breach,
Right.
that can really hurt your reputation,
Right.
erode the trust you've built with customers, and that's really, really hard to get back.
Yeah, it's like a domino effect almost.
Yeah.
You have a security incident, it gets publicized, customers lose faith, and the business suffers.
That's often exactly what happens.
Wow.
And, stakeholders, customers, partners, investors, they all expect strong governance,
Yeah.
strong risk management. They want to know their data is safe
Right.
and that the companies they work with are responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, if you mitigate risk early, if you're proactive, that can save you a lot of money in the long run,
Okay.
right? You prevent incidents or at least lessen the damage.
Right. And executives, board members, they're being held more accountable now.
Mm-hmm.
For cybersecurity failures. Even customer expectations are changing.
Right.
They want more transparency.
Mm-hmm.
They want proof that their data is being protected.
Wow. So it's like a whole bunch of factors all coming together to push GRC to the forefront.
Right.
So what are the specific things that are making organizations actually adopt these GRC frameworks? Like, what are the drivers?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of what we just talked about, they're the drivers.
Okay.
I mean, legal and regulatory requirements, those are huge.
Right.
It's not just about avoiding fines. Sometimes it's about staying in business.
Yeah.
Then you have industry standards.
Mm-hmm.
If you follow those, you show that you're committed to best practices.
Right.
And that builds trust with customers and partners.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, risk mitigation, that's always a big driver.
Right.
Finding threats, addressing them, that's just smart business. And aligning IT with your business objectives through a GRC lens,
Yeah.
that ensures that you're investing in technology strategically, that it's actually helping your business succeed.
Okay.
And like we said, stakeholders, they're demanding it.
Right.
So it becomes something you have to do.
It's not optional anymore.
No. And the threat landscape, it's always changing.
Right.
So you have to be proactive, you have to adapt, and GRC helps you do that. It's
Right.
not enough to just react to attacks anymore. You have
Yeah.
to anticipate them, you have to prevent them.
Yeah.
And then there's third-party risk management.
Okay.
Companies rely on so many vendors, so many suppliers. You
Yeah.
have to make sure that they have good security and compliance measures in place
Mm-hmm.
to protect your sensitive information.
Right.
And then, all this digital transformation.
Yeah.
Cloud, IoT, AI, they all
Right.
bring new security challenges
Right.
that you need a GRC strategy to deal with.
So we've talked about what GRC is, why it's important, but how do you actually put it into practice?
Right.
Like, what are the key steps?
Yeah, a strong GRC approach, it's a system, it's a process,
Mm-hmm.
and it's ongoing. The first thing you have to do is build a GRC framework.
Okay.
This is your blueprint.
Right.
It outlines your principles, your policies, your processes for everything related to governance, risk management, and compliance.
So this is like creating the rule book.
Yeah, like setting up the playing field.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So once you have that framework in place, what's next?
Okay, so then you have to really identify and assess your risks.
Right.
This means doing risk assessments regularly
Mm-hmm.
to find those threats and weaknesses in your environment.
Right.
And then you have to look at how likely they are to actually happen
Right.
and how bad the impact would be.
Okay.
A lot of organizations use special tools for this,
Mhm.
like vulnerability management systems that scan for weaknesses.
Or threat intelligence platforms that give you info on new cyber threats.
Okay.
And software that helps you figure out which risks are the most important.
So you figure out where the dangers are and how serious they could be.
Right,
Yep,
exactly.
Right.
Then you have to develop strategies to respond to those risks.
Okay.
This is where you decide how you're going to deal with each risk.
Mm-hmm.
It means putting controls and safeguards in place.
Right.
And that can mean a lot of different things.
Okay.
You might use security technology like firewalls,
Right.
intrusion detection system.
Okay.
But it also means having good processes in place.
Mm-hmm.
Like a plan for what to do if something bad happens.
Right.
And training your employees on security awareness.
So it's a combination of technology and human processes.
Yeah. They have to work together.
Got it. So what's the next step?
Then you have to make sure you're compliant.
This means putting processes in place to make sure you're following all the laws, the regulations, the standards.
Mm-hmm.
And that often means audits, both internal and external,
Right.
to check that you're doing everything right. You also have to monitor your compliance constantly
Okay.
and be ready to show that you're meeting all the requirements.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of this is carefully matching up those regulatory requirements
Yeah.
with your internal policies and procedures.
So there's a lot of checks and balances going on here
Yeah, it's an ongoing process, but it's crucial.
to keep things secure and compliant.
Exactly. But it doesn't stop there. You also have to keep monitoring and evaluating.
Right.
How well are your GRC controls working? Are your processes effective?
Mm-hmm.
Because the threats, they're changing all the time.
Right.
The regulations change. You have to stay flexible. You have to adapt.
Okay.
And then there's reporting and communication.
Yeah.
You have to have clear ways to share information about GRC with everyone who needs to know, from the executives and the board to individual departments, even external regulators sometimes.
So it's not like a one-time project, right?
Yeah.
It's constant. It's ongoing.
You have to be vigilant. You have to adapt.
Got it. Now, there must be tools and technologies that help with all of this, right?
Oh, yeah. There's a whole ecosystem of GRC solutions
Okay.
designed to help you automate streamline and centralize everything.
All right.
At the highest level, you have these integrated GRC platforms.
Okay.
They're like software suites that give you a central hub
Hmm.
to manage all the aspects of GRC.
So like a command center for GRC?
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Okay.
And then you have more specialized tools like risk management tools. They
Yeah.
focus on finding risks, assessing them, analyzing them, mitigating them.
Hmm.
There are tools like vulnerability management systems
Right.
that scan your systems for weaknesses.
Okay.
Threat intelligence platforms that give you insights into what the bad guys are up to. And risk assessment software that helps you figure out which risks are the most important to deal with.
And then there are tools for compliance, right?
Yeah, definitely. Compliance management tools.
Okay.
They help you automate all those compliance tasks,
Mm-hmm.
keeping up with changes in regulations, managing audits, generating reports.
Okay.
They often have things like policy management systems
All right.
to help you create, distribute, and track your policies.
Mm-hmm.
Audit management software to streamline your audit workflow,
Right.
and compliance dashboards that give you a real-time view of how you're doing.
And I've also heard about these SIME systems.
Yeah.
How do they fit into GRC?
So those are security information and event management systems, SIME.
Okay.
They play a big role.
Mm-hmm.
They collect security data from all over your IT environment,
Okay.
and then they analyze it in real time.
Right.
This helps you detect threats quickly,
Okay.
respond to them fast,
Okay.
which is key for managing risk and staying compliant.
Right.
A lot of regulations require security monitoring.
Right.
Think of SIME as the eyes and ears of your GRC efforts.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, they give you the data you need to assess your risks
Mm-hmm.
and to show that you're compliant through audit trails and logs.
So we've talked about all these different tools and technologies,
Mm.
but where do managed security services providers, the MSSPs, fit in?
Yeah, MSSPs, they're becoming really important for GRC.
Okay.
They offer a bunch of specialized services,
Mm-hmm.
like doing risk assessments, compliance audits.
Right.
They can provide continuous security monitoring
Hmm.
to find threats and compliance violations proactively.
Okay.
And they can help you respond to incidents in a way that meets your regulatory requirements.
Right.
They often use the GRC tools we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, they have their own expertise.
Right.
They can offer things like policy management systems to help you automate your policies,
Right.
risk assessment and monitoring tools that give you dashboards and real-time threat monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do compliance reporting for you
Okay.
for regulations like GDPR, IPA, PCI DSS.
So it sounds like MSSPs can be really valuable partners,
Oh, yeah,
especially for organizations that don't have the expertise
right.
or the resources to manage GRC themselves.
Absolutely. They give you expert advice.
Mhm.
They help you navigate the threat landscape
Right.
and all the changing regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So you can improve your security and meet your compliance obligations
Right.
without having to build a huge security team in-house.
Okay.
And that can save you a lot of money
Right.
and a lot of headaches.
Right. Right. You mentioned some popular GRC tools and platforms earlier. Could you remind our listeners of some of those?
Oh, yeah, sure. Some of the big names out there are ServiceNow GRC,
Okay.
RSA Archer, MetricStream, SAP GRC, IBM Open Pages. Those are some of the leading platforms.
Okay.
They offer a wide range of features for managing GRC.
So it's a pretty mature market
Yeah.
with a lot of different options for organizations of all sizes.
Right.
Now, let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Who in an organization is responsible for making sure all this GRC stuff actually happens?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not just one person
Okay.
or one department.
Right.
It's a shared responsibility
Mm-hmm.
across lots of different stakeholders.
Okay.
Identifying who those stakeholders are, that's the very first step in creating a good GRC program.
Right.
It could be senior leaders, the board, IT departments, legal teams, internal auditors, even individual business units.
So it's not just the security team's problem.
No, not at
Oh,
all.
yeah.
GRC affects everyone in the organization.
Right.
These stakeholders, they shape the whole GRC strategy.
Mhm.
They define the goals,
Right.
the success criteria. They decide who does what.
Right.
And you need their support, their buy-in.
Mm-hmm.
You need them to be on board with the plan and the budget.
Right.
Otherwise, it won't work.
Okay.
And you have to communicate with them constantly,
Yeah.
keep them informed, explain why the program is important,
Right.
let them work independently, but within the framework.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, if you don't have the stakeholders engaged, if they're not participating,
Right.
the GRC program won't be successful.
Got it. And one of our sources, the JP Stream Solution, they actually gave an example of their approach to GRC implementation as an MSSP.
Yeah.
What were some of the key things they highlighted?
Yeah, they laid out a pretty clear 3-step process
Oh.
for setting up a GRC program.
Right.
The first thing they do is identify the key stakeholders.
Okay.
They really believe in bringing the right people together
Mm-hmm.
from across the organization
Okay.
to develop the strategy together,
Right.
to define what GRC is going to mean for that specific organization.
Mhm.
And that involves figuring out what you're trying to achieve with the strategy,
Right.
what are your success criteria,
Oh, yeah.
who does what,
Mm-hmm.
and setting realistic milestones.
Right. Right. So it starts with the people, getting everyone on the same page.
Yeah.
What's the second step?
The second step is gathering information
Okay.
about the organization's current situation.
Mhm.
So, looking at their IT infrastructure,
Right.
figuring out all the compliance obligations they have,
Okay.
looking at their existing security controls and processes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they really focus on prioritizing.
Okay.
What areas can be improved?
Right.
How good is the data they have?
Mm.
Are there any big gaps in their operations?
So it's like taking stock of where you are before you make any changes.
Exactly.
And what's the final step?
The last step is onboarding the team with a clear plan.
All right.
They say communication is really important here.
Mm-hmm.
Having regular reports,
Right.
keeping everyone informed about how things are going,
Okay.
but also letting departments work independently
Right.
within the GRC framework.
Right.
And a big part of this is getting buy-in from leadership,
Mm-hmm.
making sure they understand the plan, the budget,
Okay.
that top-down support. It's crucial.
So it's a very, very methodical approach.
Yeah.
You start with the people, you figure out where you are,
Right.
and then you make sure everyone's on board and working together.
Exactly. And JP Stream also emphasizes that this is just the beginning. It's
Yeah.
not a one-time thing.
Right.
They're committed to growing the GRC program over time,
Mm-hmm.
to keep talking about why it's important,
Okay.
and to make changes as the business changes, as the world changes.
Right.
As the organization starts to see the benefits of GRC, they build on that success,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep reinforcing how important it is.
So to sum up everything we've talked about, what are the biggest benefits of having a good GRC framework?
I mean, the benefits, they're huge.
Okay.
First, it really aligns your IT activities with your business goals.
Right.
You make sure that technology is actually supporting your strategic objective,
Mm-hmm.
that it's helping your business succeed.
Okay.
Second, it makes you better at managing risk.
Right.
You're less likely to have security incidents.
Mm-hmm.
You reduce your financial losses.
Okay.
You minimize disruptions.
Right.
Third, a good GRC framework helps you stay compliant
Mhm.
with all the laws, the regulations, the standards
Mm-hmm.